Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure to be with you here tonight, to provide an update of the state of our beloved city of Riverton. We've accomplished much over this past year, and this past year actually marks the conclusion of my first term in office. Helen Keller once said, "Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much." This rings true for us here in Riverton. The success our community has experienced is really because of so many people that are here tonight and working together. And so before we begin, I really want to thank several groups of individuals. First, I'd like to recognize our incredible city council and invite each of them to stand as I read their name. We have Councilmember Sheldon Stewart, Councilmember Tish Baroker, Councilmember Tawny McKay, Councilmember Claude Wells, and Councilmember Troy McDougall. Thank you very much for your dedicated service. I'd also like to recognize other elected officials that are here tonight and some that may not be here, but for those that serve us in our state legislature, our state senator Dan McKay, and we have some of our state representatives here I know this evening, Representative Mark Strong and Representative Candace Perucci, also Representative Susan Pulsifer. We also have County Councilman Steve DeBry that's with us here, and also Board Member Tracy Miller. Thank you very much for your dedicated service to our Riverton residents. Thank you. Also, for those that serve in any volunteer capacity on our planning commission, on our city boards, I want to thank you. If any of you are here tonight, please stand up to be recognized. Thank you very much. I know we have some planning commission. There we go. Thank you. And I'd now like to invite all of our city employees that are here, along with our first responders, to please stand and be recognized. You know, our city government, we could not operate without your dedicated service and really your selfless service. So thank you so much. Lastly, but certainly not least, I want to thank all of our Riverton residents, all of our citizens, and their efforts to make our community a great place to live. One of the main goals as a city was to try and increase the level of citizen engagement. That was one of our priorities from the last strategic plan. And we've seen just that. Over the last year, we have seen a tremendous amount of engagement. In fact, we had a resident survey that was concluded just in December, and we had almost 3,000 people respond to that survey. And that represents almost 10% of our adult population, some 28,000 adults, almost 46,000 residents here in Riverton. So that was incredible. That helped us tremendously in our strategic planning that I'm going to be talking about. And I was thrilled to see that about 93%, we had 93% respond that they were very much in favor of the direction of the city and how things were going here. And so it was great to be able to hear. As a city government, we saw some really good successes in 2021. And I want to be able to just relay a few of those with you here tonight. You've got a few cards that have been handed to you, and one of those is a by the numbers and the top 10. So we'll be referencing a few of those. First of all, the city saw a substantial improvements to our roadway infrastructure. We completed 2 new city roads in particular that I wanted to call out, and they are called Old Liberty Way and Majestic Rise Parkway. And these streets are located between Bangerter Highway and Mountain View Corridor, and they're going to be essential to providing connectivity to that area, one of the newer areas of our city. And just as we approach build out, we've got a lot of pressures that relate around roadway infrastructure. And our Public Works Department, many of which are here tonight, were so instrumental in getting that done. So thank you. House Bill 244 was passed last legislative session, and that appropriates $700,000 a year to Riverton for the next 15 years to be able to use that money on critical roadway and infrastructure projects. So that was a huge help for us as a city and really helps our budget, especially with our roadways. I want to thank our legislators that are here. The other part, there was another bill last legislative session, House Bill 433, that appropriated $75 million, among other things, for the freeway-style interchange at 134 South in Bangor. And that is going to be very critical to improve our roadway congestion. Now, costs have gone up just in the last year, believe it or not, $25 million for that interchange. And so we're working with our state legislature. We were just up there today at the Capitol to ensure that we can get that funding, that bridged, so that we can go ahead and start that interchange, which is scheduled to begin about this time next year. So we want to thank again our legislators for working so hard on our behalf to secure much needed funds. Speaking of freeway-style interchanges, the 126th and Bangor interchange was just completed 2 weeks ago. And myself, along with members of UDOT and some of our city council members, were able to attend at a ribbon cutting that was celebrating the fact that all movements are open. And so that is, I realize there's a few cones that are still out there, but I'm told that those are all going to go away in the next few weeks to have every single lane open. And that's a great thing to have happen. The city also completed major projects here on the east side. For those of you that live here on the east side, you'll know the infamous S-curve. That's been completed. We also had a lot of sidewalk and gutter that was put in place. And we also improved the area just north of Jim's Restaurant here on Redwood Road that we're now calling the Page Hansen Park. And that, I think, is a significant and much needed improvement to our city. If you take a look at the by the numbers card, we saw another record-breaking year for sales tax revenue. Our sales tax revenue for the fiscal year end of 2021 ended just under $10 million. That's huge. When I first started on the council 8 years ago, we were at about $4.5 million. So just in the last year, we've seen about 20% increase in sales tax revenue, and about 50% in the last 4 years. The reason why that's so important is because that additional tax revenue allows us to keep fees low, property taxes and fees low. And we continue to have in this city a zero property tax. We do not assess a property tax in the city of Riverton. Now, our council, we've been concerned about the effects of COVID-19 on the business community. And it's again, good that we're here tonight with our chamber and be recognizing some of those businesses. This led us to launch what we called the Economic Recovery Initiative back in 2020. And wanting to do even more, council decided that we would launch a Local First Riverton campaign in 2021. So we did just that. The goal was to go ahead and market to our public the benefits of shopping and buying local. And that campaign, we had some competitions every week. We asked people to submit their receipts for patronizing Riverton establishments. And people that did that, those receipts over the course of some weeks totaled over $630,000. And we conducted a survey at the conclusion of that, and 64% of the people indicated that they were more willing to support local businesses first as a result of that effort. Now, we do have some major retail as well that's happening in our city. Costco Wholesale broke ground in 2021, and we're excited about their opening here in the next couple of months. Also, phase 2 of Mountain View Village, that's out there off of 134th and Mountain View Corridor. We're going to have a grand opening for Phase 2 over the Memorial Day weekend. And we look forward to the addition of dozens of new restaurants, literally dozens of new restaurants, offices. We also have a Cinemark Theater that I'm told should be opening around the 4th of July holiday. 4 years ago, our city was, I believe, the first in the state to eliminate the business license fee. And this initiative was part of a goal of ours, part of our old strategic plan, to promote, quote, a thriving business climate that supports the needs of our residents. Well, we're happy to get rid of that business license fee. To add to this goal, the city then transitioned 100% to an online business licensing program. And this has made our licensing processes much more efficient. And we're able to keep up and provide the services much more quickly to these businesses as a result. Want to comment on our debt per capita. We've seen a significant decrease in that in the last year, in 2021. Our debt per capita now stands at $808 per resident. This is a significant decrease from 4 years ago, which we were at about $980. And we have not seen this level of debt per capita since 2013, before we actually issued the bond for this park and for this facility that we're in tonight. Another stat on the cards is the utility fees. And we like to brag about this in our city, but we do boast the lowest utility fees in the region. We're at $756 for the average resident. That's for all of your utilities, culinary water, secondary water, sanitation, everything. That averages about $63 a month. And I like to say it's less than I think most everyone is paying for internet service. Pretty remarkable when you contemplate everything that you're able to receive for such a small amount. Put it in perspective, Riverton residents on the average pay $342 less than Harriman residents, $260 less than South Jordan residents, and about $158 less than Draper residents for the same usage in utilities. I know our city council, every budget time, we work very hard at ensuring that we keep these fees low. We also note, if you look at the numbers, we have one of the lowest full-time employee counts per 1,000 residents than any of our comparable cities. And again, we really appreciate the work of our employees, and they do a fantastic job. They're called on often to do so much with so little. And so we want to make sure, again, that we call them out here tonight and thank our employees for everything that they do. This past year, the Riverton Police Department hosted its first Citizens Academy. And I know Chief Hudson was proud to have that, curate that entire event. I think it was amazing. We heard back from all the residents that were able to participate, and our department continues to find ways to establish these positive relationships with those in our community. Our residents continue to save property tax dollars since we left the Salt Lake Valley Law Enforcement Service area back in 2018. Cumulatively, we've saved about $6 million for property taxpayers since then, and we're running at about a $2.5 million annual savings going forward. We've had really great turnout, a lot of events this past year. We've had, in fact, record-breaking attendances at our town days and many of our other events. And so we want to thank and appreciate, really, the work that our Recreation and Events Department does for this, to maintain a strong sense of community. That is incredibly important for me, for our City Council, that we maintain that strong sense of community. And the City Council approved just in December a license agreement with Google Fiber. We've heard from many of our residents that they want to have increased choices as it relates to broadband services. And so Google Fiber will be expanding into the Riverton, utilizing our public right-of-way. And we anticipate the construction to start this year. And we've been told that I think virtually all of Riverton will have access into 2023. So those are just a few of the items I wanted to highlight. I don't have time to really go through everything that occurred in 2021. But just again, I want to offer my thanks and a sincere appreciation to everyone who had a hand in this. Now, lastly, I want to talk a few moments about our visioning process that our council just went through and a few items that we're looking at for the future. Our elected officials met in January here on January 22nd, and the goal there was to set a new strategic plan for the next 4 years. And this included updating our vision and mission statements, and also, this time around, we also created values, a set of organizational values. These values include integrity, innovation, stewardship, collaboration, and service. And these are going to guide our elected officials and our city employees as we conduct the business of city government and as we interact with the public. Now, much of the discussion at this planning meeting was related to the results of that citizen survey that I mentioned, that incredible survey where we got so much feedback from our residents. And in the end, the City Council identified 4 broad themes as part of our new strategic plan. We had 8 last time. We wanted to keep it a little more simple this time around. We just settled on 4. And those are, number 1, sense of community. Number 2, connectivity and infrastructure. Number 3, economic development. And number 4, sustainability. So a series of objectives and goals have been outlined to support each one of these 4 themes. And this will serve as the guide or the roadmap, if you will, for the city over the next 4 years. I want to just highlight a few of these objectives or initiatives that align with these themes that I find are highly strategic and would be important. Number 1, we want to ensure the continuation and enhancement of community events that will bring our community together. We've talked about different events that we want to be able, or events that we want to bolster, and some even new events. A fiber backbone network. We've got a project that we're looking at that can connect all of Riverton City facilities that will generate, I believe, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not over $1 million, over the course of the next decade in savings for taxpayers. These are city costs that we're paying today to connect city facilities that we can save. And this ring also has the potential of being opened up to the private sector, having the private sector leverage it. That will allow even more choice and competition that can improve speeds and costs for our residents. We have a project with the Riverton City Green Well to supplement the city's water supply. It doesn't get any more important than water, especially in the past or recent year or two here where we've been experiencing drought. We want to ensure that any water that we create, though, is at least equal to or better than the quality that the Jordan Valley Conservancy District offers. It was a big deal back in 2015 for us to move as a city to that. But we believe that we can re-engage the Green Well here near Roy Hardy Park off of 126th, and that can produce a couple thousand acre-feet of water every year. And by doing this, I believe that we can save hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially $1 million a year or more in purchasing costs today that the city pays for to the Conservancy District. And we'll be able to keep our water rates near the same for the next 4 years. We're looking at the addition of 2 new city parks on the west side of the city, and also improving our active transportation networks to include trails along canals and also pedestrian bridges. And near where we are here tonight, the City Council has identified 2 very small community reinvestment areas that have the potential to bring in sit-down restaurant, some office and retail for the eastern side of the city. This is something we heard in the survey too, that we needed to have more options for sit-down restaurants and opportunities for businesses here on this side of the city. Again, I mentioned the drought, given that recent drought and the state legislature moving towards really mandating the installation of secondary water meters at every connection. They're accelerating that in this session too. They're looking at a bill that would force that to be done by 2030. We're a bit unique in our city where we have some 12,000 connections. Every single one of us residents has the option of connecting to that pressurized irrigation or secondary water system. And that's what helps us save a lot of money on our water bills throughout the summer. And our elected officials, to their credit, they have gotten in front of this. They've seen ahead of the curve. They saw this coming. And we've already installed a third of our city with secondary water meters. And with the activities of the state and the matching dollars that is being proposed, and with the use of some of our federal America Rescue Plan funds the city's received, we were able, as a city, to turn back a $12 million loan that, by saving the interest expense and the ongoing expense for that, I believe that we will not need to raise rates on our secondary water as well for the foreseeable future. It's an incredibly, I think, strategic move and one that we want to get finished here in the year of 2021. So that provides a bit of an outlook for this upcoming year, or this year. In conclusion, I would just like to say that our city has strong leadership in our elected officials. We have strong and dedicated staff, and we're in a strong financial position. We have strong businesses and a very strong local economy. Our outlook is bright, and I urge citizens, families, and businesses here to continue to stay united in building a prosperous city that maintains that strong sense of community that we all love about Riverton. So may God bless this great city of Riverton and continue to bless our great state and country. Thank you.